Match and Master is a turn-based tactics game that uses a match 3 board as a controller. So when you make a match and pieces fall and create more matches, that adds to your movement points. And the score you get is the damage you do once you choose an enemy to attack. So it's pretty simple. Just make moves on the match 3 board, and those stats translate into the tactics board. And from there, you play this student who's sort of trying to defend the area around his school from this blight that's trying to take over the environment. The mechanic itself came from a game jam game where I was just sort of teaching myself a lot of programming mechanics, and I just wanted to mash things together. And it was, back then it was a dungeon crawler, and it was very different. We used like the colors. It's very, very based around the colors. Like if you wanted to move a certain direction, you had to match a certain color, and then you'd sort of move in one block at a time. And we sort of took that was one of our original sort of premise that we took to PAX 2023. But when we finally got people playing it, we found a bunch of issues with sort of lulls in gameplay. And then luckily we've sort of had a lot of help, and we've ended up working with a guy called Dan Vo from Australia, and he really sort of broke down the fundamentals, and we started moving towards the tactics side of things with a lot of movement and more strategical thinking. But it all just came from mucking around with game jams, really. I did it just hobby-wise. That was back when I was just doing hobby programming, and I do game jams just to learn and have fun. I'm originally an audio engineer. That was sort of my previous career, and then I started teaching that. I was teaching audio students how to get their audio into games, and then there wasn't a lot of resources, so I started making my own, learning Unity and programming. From there, I just liked that a lot. I started teaching art students how to make games with their art, and then sort of kept spiraling up from that. Then I started doing the game jams and stuff. Got a little bit of success in that. Applied for a funding for a bunch of games, for like a studio funding sort of package with a company or the government organisation over here called the New Zealand Centre of Digital Excellence. That application sort of failed, but they offered me a different variation of it to make just what in those days was called Colour Crawler, which was like a dungeon crawling version of Match and Mastery. And then so we made a prototype out of that. I then applied for more funding, failed that, but they asked me to take it to PAX, and then from there, we've been to GDC in San Francisco, applied for more funding, got more funding, which has then ended up turning into what it is now, which is the Steam and Switch version of Match and Mastery. Yeah, but we've had a lot of help along the way, which has really accelerated it to the sort of business side of it, from a hobby into a business. Yeah. The biggest thing is you got to sort of forget what you think it is going to be. And it usually, once it's out in the ether and people are playing it and people are talking about it, it changes and it's not yours anymore. Something I learned from music actually as well is once something's out there, like a song, it's not yours anymore. Games are exactly the same way, but you sort of, with games, you have to sort of lean into that way more, and that's the market showing you where that game needs to go. And you always need to just jump on that and carry on. One thing I've learned is when you start a business, when you start a video game company, you don't make a lot of video games. You become a video game lead, not an actual video game developer. So I don't actually get to do that much audio on it. I definitely don't have enough time to put as much time as I wish I could put into it for audio. It's kind of like how builders have like the worst house and stuff like that, because it's like, you know what I mean, they just can't like sit down and put time into it properly. It started off very indie. We were like a little more artsy with the art style and the audio and stuff like that, but the more we sort of moved towards developing for Switch, and when we first got it to PAX as well, our first PAX playthrough, a lot of the children, or the younger audience, or the 10 to 18 sort of stuff, really vibed with it quite well. So that's definitely changed the art direction, and it's changed some of the audio too, where it's sort of getting away from the more the artsy indie stuff to more of the poppy, sort of happier, cartoonier sort of stuff. Which if you see the artwork is the most obvious example of that. It gets very cartoony the more we sort of go along. One of the things I really wanted to get across from the very start is one of the things themes that have always come along with each version of the game is the sort of the chess-like aspect to it, where you're always thinking one or two moves ahead. because you want to move an enemy into a certain place before you can use a certain bomb, and then we can chain two of those three things again. It all comes off, and you feel like a genius. That's the sort of thing you want to get. The feeling you always want to have your audience play as well. I don't like telling people how to play it. I like you give them the tutorial, which is very basic, and then just say have fun, see what happens. And when they start seeing them tick over, their mind took over, and they go, oh, okay, I see, I could push this thing over here and then throw this bomb here, and then like that, and then you're like, perfect, that's exactly what I want. Seeing the audience sort of figure that sort of stuff out is really, really cool, really fun.
Do you have a go-to caffeinated beverage?
I do. I got two, and it's really bad actually. Being in New Zealand, the energy drink V, a lot of sugar-free blue V. And then a McDonald's, the real bad one is a McDonald's iced caramel latte, which they're much better here in New Zealand, by the way, from after packs. Like the ones in Australia are horrible. Well, oh, you guys have the coffee fraps actually. Those are actually really, really good, but they're even worse for you. But over here, they're more of just like iced coffee. They're just full of caramel and sugar and stuff.